Hey guys, Amber here. Now, before I start this interview, I would like to deeply apologise in advance. I did unintentionally mispronounce some of Carl's characters, like John Jones and Isaiah Bradley from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I guess my brain just wasn't really up to speed on the day I was doing the interview, so I deeply apologise in advance. I mean, I'm just looking back through the editing and it makes me cringe. Like, I literally mispronounced it. But enough of the apology. Let's get on with the interview. Hi guys, Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is an actor. He is best known for being the voice of John Johns, also known as the Martian Manhunter in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. He has also played Azazel. Um, oh, you have to excuse me. Azazel Bradley in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, sorry, I completely blanked the name then for a second. I do apologize. Oh my gosh. Um, he's also played Dick Halloran in Doctor Sleep, Marcus Petrie in Cagney and Lacey. Um, he's also been in cartoons such as Batman Beyond, Superman the Animated Series, Static Shock, Batman the Brave and the Bold, Young Justice, Bunnicula, Justice League Gods and Monsters, and many more. My guest is Carl Lumbly. Welcome.
Thank you, Amber. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. Before I really get started, I'd like to just pass on my condolences regarding the
Kevin.
passing recently of the late great Kevin Conroy, who you worked with on the DC animated stuff that you've done. So my
Yes.
condolences go to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. He was obviously a tremendous voice talent, but he was also a brilliant stage actor. He did a tremendous amount on television and film, and he was just a true quality person whose I think his mark in voice work will be left untouched. There's no one has done what he has done, and also one of the most decent people you could ever want to meet. I was privileged to call him friend and colleague, and though his physical presence has transitioned away from us, he's still quite here. And I guess it's the beauty in many ways of voice work in particular that it lives on. And I think that voice has a character and a presence for each individual who listens. So they have their own Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I was lucky enough to meet him as well. I actually met him earlier this year. He did his
Ah,
final convention appearance in England. Well, of course, we
mm,
didn't know it would be his last, but yeah, I met him back in April with Will Friedle, who's this is like a little Batman Beyond reunion. So I met them both. They were
ah,
really lovely. I only met Kevin at the photo op though, but he was really nice, and yeah, I'm very grateful that I got a photo with him for sure. Yeah, and the way you've described him makes him seem like such a kind, loving, amazing guy to work with. And of course, I just really want to jump straight into the first topic, which is Justice League. Of course, you were Martian Manhunter. Kevin was, of course, Batman, and then there was many other people on the show, like George Newbern, who was Superman, and then Phil Lamar, who was Lantern. Yeah, and many others as well. Wonderful, wonderful voice actors on it, along with Andrea Romano voice directing it. So you're among the best there, I say. So what was your experience with working on Justice League?
I would say it was a peak experience for me. It was also, although it wasn't my first voice job, it was the first character that I got an opportunity to develop from, the ground up, from the audition, out of my own sense of what the only surviving Martian who was several thousand years old might sound like. And for me, Andrea's acceptance of my idea about living with a kind of grief that was embodied and was a part of that voice, but also the wisdom that comes with an understanding that there is no permanence. Um, it was was a peak experience. It was like being part of a theatrical company because we did most of those sessions with all of us in the studio at the same time in a row. And that's fairly unusual, but I think Andrea knew that there was something vital about um, doing those kinds of stories all together, and all of us feeling not only that we had a responsibility to give what we needed to give to our own characters, but that that character then had a responsibility to give what they were supposed to give within the context of the piece. And with all of us together, it always felt like we were um, pulling in harness. And so it was never work. It was just joyous, just really joyous, and 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 challenging because everyone was so good. What I remember was just not wanting to let down. So every every phrase, every word, every thought that Jean was supposed to convey, I wanted that to be spot on.
Wonderful. What a beautifully put answer, Carl. Wow. Thank you for answering my
Oh,
question.
sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, that was a really good series that you did, and of course, the main six, seven. I can't. I honestly, I haven't seen it. To be honest, I'm gonna be honest with you. I
Mhm.
haven't been able to watch Justice League, Batman, anything like that since Kevin passed away because it hit me so hard, and I imagine it hit you so hard as well because you've worked with him obviously on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just hit me like someone had punched me in the stomach because it was Kevin that actually got me into Batman. Started on my Batman obsession and my whole DC animated universe. So of
Oh,
course, you know, when I was feeling down, I would watch Justice League or Batman the animated series or Static Shock or Superman the animated series or anything along those lines. And just watching it now just it just makes me feel kind of sad. I don't know why. It's that sort of feeling that you get when you look back at memories and you think you should be happy, but instead you're feeling just really sad and everything like that. And it's just really
well,
hard.
I think it's in stages, Amber, and I'm old enough and have experienced enough loss in different areas um, to understand that that initial reaction is very, very natural. It's quite sad. It's interesting because I think certainly in American society and probably in I don't know if it's quite the same where you are, but there's a there isn't a great interest to talk about death. There's a way in which I suppose, because we can't imagine not being here ourselves, the loss of any other individual feels like they have gone into a void. It's a mystery, I will admit, but it may not necessarily be a void. And I think as time moves on, after you have lost someone, you become aware of a spirit that is with you that has nothing to do with a corpus. It has to do with an essence. And since I personally feel we are all essential, I know that the spirit of my late wife, who passed in 2010, is with me right now and moves around with me in space every day. My father, my mother. My father passed in '84, my mother in 2005. Um, their spirits are with me. They fill me and they helped pull me up out of the sadness that I felt. The what that life gave us, and that I think ultimately trumps any any lingering sadness. And that's not to say that there aren't moments when you miss them tremendously. But I think it's a natural progression, and I think it begins with just acknowledging the loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, as I said before, beautifully put. You have such a way with words, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
You're,
Both my mother and father would be quite happy.
yeah, yeah, of course, and Kevin will be really happy as well because I know like he's the only Justice League team member who's passed on, but he'll be with you guys forever and always for sure.
Yes, yes.
Rooting for you.
On the day, we gathered digitally in the way we can, just sending up our um, condolences to one another for and our memories of how great it was and how you know there's there's a there's always a space in the booth that no one else can touch. That's that's Kevin.
Oh, that's actually tugged on my heartstrings. That is so. Oh man, that is beautiful. Like I keep saying beautiful, but it is beautiful. It's just
Well,
so well put.
you know, it's as I say, I'm probably practiced because I have had a good bit of loss, and I've had to come to grips with, um, you know, how to move forward with what they gave you. And obviously, Kevin, as you say, was responsible for a good bit of you being right where you are right now. And once you have had a chance to deal with the fact that he's gone physically, I think those things spiritually that have been so important to you, those things are all still here. In fact, they continue to grow. So in a sense, he continues to grow inside us as we move forward in his spirit.
Yeah, because there will be people in the future who will have grown up with Justice League and your character and everyone else's characters, and they'll be showing it to their children. Their children can show it to their children, their grandchildren. You know, it will be passed on, and your legacy is just preserved through voice as well as on screen, like if you do on camera acting or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd also like to talk about your other roles in animated shows. Now I know you've also done prior to Justice League, you did Superman the animated you had a guest spot on Superman the animated series, Batman Beyond, Static Shock as well. I believe you were on it before Justice League, right? Am I correct? Or was that after?
Just I think actually they might have run concurrently. If I
Uh
remember, it seemed to me that um, maybe a year after I began doing Justice League, Static Shock came up, and then it only went maybe a year, and Justice League was still continuing. And I think because the voice in Justice League was so um, unlike any other voice I did, I never felt any conflict or difficulty. John Jones lived in me in a certain way that no other character could. So it was the other work, as you will, I'm sure, as you know or will find out in experience, everything you do um, grows on you and informs everything else you do. And it helps you, A, learn what you're good at, B, learn what you need to become better with. It opens you up to possibility. So whenever you're faced with something that seems impossible, I I think you develop a sense of, well, okay, it may be impossible, but if it were possible, what would it look like? And that's how you can move forward. So it's a to me it's everything you do aids and enhances everything else you do.
Oh, you're talking about heartstrings again. Oh, I'm gonna have to get a box of tissues in a minute. Oh man, this is making me nearly weep, Carl. Oh my gosh.
Well, you know, that's another thing, Amber. I mean, tears are just a release, and I've shed as many happy tears as I have tears of sadness, and
Yeah.
on a certain level, they're all cleansing.
Yeah, of
And,
course. Oh, I forgot to ask the most important question of all.
oh,
How did
yes.
you get before I have to apologize, I said John Jones instead of John Jones. I'm
And
so
I say because and this is the actual French equatorial Martian pronunciation.
Oh, right.
Jean Jones.
Jean Jo. Oh my god. I am so
Jean
sorry to everyone
Jones.
at the beginning. I completely
No,
butchered the name.
no, it's
Not a
no
true fan.
no problem at all.
So, how did you get the role of John Jones in Justice League?
Andrea Andrea Romano. Andrea Romano, who I'd met some years prior to her casting Justice League. In fact, she was the one who said you should think about doing voice work. And then at some point, she called my agent and said, I have something that I would like Carl to come in and read for that I think he'd be right for. And told me what the character was. And I was just taken by it. I can't exactly describe it, but because it was on two levels. One, I loved the character. I loved the fact that he had been away. I loved the fact that he was all by himself. He was the last one of his kind, and that he had left his home planet, which we all know is difficult when you have to leave home, and made a decision to invest his talent, his heart, his love in a foreign place. So my family is Jamaican, and my parents moved to the United States and left a beautiful island and a beautiful home behind because they wanted to invest in a possibility for their children. And that kind of I think the sense of that has always been dear to me. And in Jean Jones, I saw this opportunity to kind of walk in an immigrant's shoes again, in fantasy or not. There are certain realities about feeling like you, you don't quite belong, feeling like your history has been cut off from you, feeling like you have only the memory of your loved ones, the memory of your sacred places, the memory of home, and then taking it upon yourself to create that somewhere else. So it speaks to imagination. You can't know what it will be like, but you can imagine if it were possible, what would it look like?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And I've just
yeah.
seen on Wikipedia that it says you did additional voices for Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. Is that correct?
Yes, it is
Oh,
correct, and I'm only certain of that one because it's in Wikipedia.
yeah.
Some of them I don't have specific memories of, but I do remember the titles. Um, Often people come up and they will say, I loved what you did with this character in this voice, or I've done some video games, and a couple of them were fairly popular, and they say, that character was great, and they will say a name, and I will say, thank you, but I really don't remember what it is.
Yeah, well, it's just must be really cool though because like yeah, you've got so many credits, not just obviously voiceover, but like live action as well. Of course, you've done like NCIS, you've done Criminal Minds. You're working on a film. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you can talk. I don't think you can because I'm not sure if you're still under NDA. It says you're working on a film, or no, it's not a film. It's a series. I apologize. The Fall of the House of Usher.
Yes, yes, that's for Netflix that will be coming out next year.
Wow.
A wonderful role, but I should also mention that um, I did a series for Disney um, called The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's a
Yeah.
Marvel series, and
Yeah.
the Captain America New World Order will be working on that going into the year. So um,
Wow.
I'm quite excited about that. Isaiah Bradley, once again, a character who had been drawn
I
and
thought it was Isaiah.
kind of removed, and yes, and then
Yeah.
brought back. So I got the opportunity to bring him to life in the first um, Falcon and the Winter Soldier in the series, and now he will be returning in Captain America: New World Order.
Wow, that's really cool. I thought it was Isaiah, but then like I looked
Yes.
at the pronunciation, it said Isaiah for like for British English. I was like, okay.
Oh, oh yes,
I don't know. I'm
yes.
not that good with pronunciation, so that's why like on many interviews I do, I've had comments saying, "Oh, you pronounced this name wrong" and stuff. I'm like, okay, yes, I sometimes don't look it up before the interview, or like I can't find a proper pronunciation, and when I do, it's sometimes not the right one. But anything I have mispronounced, I really do apologize, Carl, if I've mispronounced any name or series or.
Oh, no, no problem at all. No problem at all. I I think with Isaiah, there's this opportunity to address um, things that have been done that have been wrong. So, they say one of the most difficult things to do is to forgive someone you've wronged. And I think, the story of the treatment of his character, having been arguably the first Captain America, at least having been injected with this super soldier serum as part of an experiment, but never credited and in fact locked away for many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
And as wrong as all of that is, right can still be made. It's never too late to make things right. So that's that's one of the things that I love about fantasy and um,
Me too.
and animation in general. I think there's an ability and an opportunity to tell stories that people otherwise might not quite go along with. But
Mm.
in the world of imagination, you have to go along with everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, and it's also how the voice director tells you to do it as well, like how to say it and stuff. It's also probably down to them. Yeah,
Yes.
so
And a good voice director like Andrea
she did all the
gives me.
DC animated. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Andrea Romano is, she's uh, a Hall of Famer,
She's up
world.
here. You can't see my
Yeah,
hand.
yeah, pretty much. That's it. That's it. She's out of sight. um,
She's brilliant, honestly.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And I think one of the things that a really good voice director in particular does is rather maybe than telling you how to say it, they're telling you what they hear. And Andrea was always very good about, all right, I'm hearing this. Could it be possible to hear this and that? Always um, regarding the work you're doing and asking you for more or for better or for different, asking you to approach it artistically. And I love that. I think it's all work. It feels like magic. It doesn't feel like work, but it is work. And maybe when it's at its best, it feels the least like work when you're working your hardest.
Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
for something you really, really, really love doing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And with Andrea, I have to say, she is really lovely. I do agree with you on every single thing that you said about her. I have video chatted her once. It was through GalaxyCon. It was like some sort of have you ever done a
Oh, no,
GalaxyCon? Like,
no,
they do like have you not? They've done a few Justice League stuff. I would have thought they would have asked you to be on one of their
well,
panels.
I'll tell you the truth, Amber. I think I've only been to two Comic Cons. I won't say that I am a dedicated introvert, but I'm a fairly private person, and I don't I don't do Comic Cons. I haven't done Comic Cons,
Yeah.
and I've been asked, and I, it's just I love to do the work, and sometimes I feel that talking about it um, is wonderful, and I love the feedback, but it it can be too much for me. And I think I don't ever want to lose that sense that I have that um, things move on. So you have one opportunity to do the best you can in that moment with that character, and then you've done that, and it moves on. What I love is the fact that people appreciate it, and I love hearing that appreciation because otherwise, why would you be doing it? But yeah, I tend to be sometimes fairly reclusive.
And honestly, in this old world, I don't blame you. I'm quite reclusive as well. Like, yes, I do Comic Cons and YouTube and stuff, but honestly, leaving the house drains me. And then I can't go out for another 2 days. It's like it drains every single bit of my energy out. And yeah, honestly, that's okay. That's okay that you don't do Comic Cons. That's completely up to you. And yeah, I was just simply just saying because I video chatted Andrea because there was a Batman event and she was like a part of it. She always is when with all the DC animated ones.
Hmm.
So I spoke to her, and I had like a yellow pair of cat headphones. They've broke now, so I don't have them anymore. And she loved them so much, she actually went on Amazon and ordered these specific headphones. And I was like, okay. Then my yellow ones broke, so I just got the exact same pair as her. So she has a pair of cat headphones thanks to me. So that's I
Excellent.
was like, oh, she's
Excellent.
got good taste. The first time I've inspired a voice director, usually it's the voice director's inspiring me. So that's how the tables have turned. That was honestly so amazing, honestly. I wanted to talk about some of your live action voiceover work. I know that you mentioned the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I know that
Mhm.
you're doing the new Captain America New World Order film. I'm not sure if
Right,
I don't think you can talk about it though because of NDAs and stuff like that. So I'm not really going to
right.
question obviously the upcoming projects because I know what they're like. I'm under an NDA for a voiceover project I'm doing at the moment. That's professional, like my first ever proper professional gig. I
Oh,
can't say anything.
congrats.
Well, it's for a theme park ride, but that's all I can say. So
Okay, okay.
yeah, it
Yes.
is really exciting. So I know you have done a few not anime, excuse me. Sorry, it's so easy to say DC animated universe. You've done a few DC live action shows as well. You've done
Oh, yes,
Supergirl.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, you did John Jones's dad in that, I believe, which was
That's
really
right.
that was really cool. I love how they played it. It was like an homage. They brought back the voice of John Jones to do that. So what was it like
Yeah.
working on that?
Oh, it was great fun. First, I must say, the Jean Jones in the live action, David Harewood, is a marvelous, marvelous, marvelous actor. And we had a wonderful time playing together. And then psychologically, it was quite um, fun for me seeing uh, playing uh, what my own father. Uh, so it, it allowed me to literally explore the ways in which I have matured and and brought that to bear in the series. It was a real joy, and the entire cast. I mean, Melissa Benoist. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful, wonderful Supergirl. I
She's
mean,
great, isn't she? Yeah, she's
yes, and what
amazing.
a great, great actress and person. Yeah. So it was joyful. It was also, living out um, in live action something that had only existed in animation for me in my mind, and that was it was almost like having come full circle, to have done Justice League when we did for those years, and then some years later to get this opportunity to come back and play in it again from a different perspective. Really, really joyful.
That's wonderful to hear you describe your experience like that. Wow. So really, just to round off the interview, I'm gonna ask a few, well, fun questions. I do this with all my guests because, well,
Okay.
it's in conversation with ATF. It's laid back, it's casual, it's not under
Okay.
pressure like most interviews you see online. Trust me, it's this is fun. This is just 100% fun. I just want my guests to have a good time. That's like it's not really about the question. Well, it kind of is about obviously the questions I ask, but it's just the experience that I leave them with. I leave them feeling fulfilled, happy, just
Hmm.
energized. Just hyped up. So
Mhm.
I just really want to. I just want to know. Just the basics. Carl, what's your favorite color?
Blue.
A lot of people go for blue, to be fair. Yeah, I
Mhm.
personally, mine's yellow. I've had a lot of people. It's usually people who go for the common colors. Like they've had, I think red and blue are the top ones that I've heard. I think one person did say yellow. I was like, I have found my
Right.
twin. Yeah, I know. I thought like yellow's like really bright and stuff like that, and then just like blue is like it just reminds me of the ocean. It's just so I love them all. I love them all, but
Yeah.
yellow's like at the top for me. um, what would you? Okay, you're going to your favorite restaurant. What do you order? What's your favorite meal or a dish or food to order when you go out to a restaurant, or even just to eat? Anytime really,
Well,
or
interesting.
really just a favorite
My
food.
my my favorite food. I suppose technically a pescatarian, although I've eaten less and less fish as I go on. But I was vegetarian since I was 1974.
Mhm.
So, but I do love fish. So I would say um, there's a Jamaican dish called escabeche, a fish which is just basically a nice fry snapper with herbs and thyme and onions and spices, and that with red beans and rice, and maybe some mango pudding, or I'm not wild on sweets, but generally after eating a good hot spicy meal, I like a little taste of it. So that would be what I would. That's what I would get. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really delicious. Wow, I'm gonna have to try that
Yeah,
mango pudding. That sounds really like wow.
yeah,
Okay, I've got to
it
try
is
that.
very good. Very good.
Mm, wow. What's your ideal weekend activity? Like when you're not doing acting work.
Hmm. Writing. I
Ah,
yeah, I've always written. I didn't start out to be an actor. I was a journalist, and it's kind of a happy accident how I became an actor. So I feel like I fell into it or it found me.
mhm.
Um, but I love writing and reading. So the great weekend for me, no, maybe not the whole weekend, let's say a great Saturday, would be perhaps steady rainfall with a great book that I'm taking notes on before I write.
Sounds beautiful. Well, what sort of stuff do you like to write? What's your favorite genre? Do you like what writing like maybe film scripts or televisions or like your television, like sort of inspired scripts or like what do you usually like to write? Like what sort of genre do you like to usually aim for?
Well, what I normally like to write is just to take a prompt and see what comes out. I'm working on a one-man show about James Baldwin, who was an author and an activist here in the
Hmm.
States. I really, really respect, have for a long, long time in my life, and that's my bucket list project. That's what I would. That's what I'm continuing to work on. But the writing that I do almost all the time is just observational. I write backstories for all the characters that I play. I write um, I write prompts if I see something, um, two dogs um, looking out of the rear window of an automobile at something. Um, I'll perhaps write about what they might be seeing, what they might be saying to one another. You know, children on the way to school. I try to write um, about what it was like for them as they were leaving their house that morning, getting ready. I like to write characters and I like to write scenes, just to almost like skipping rope, just to keep that muscle exercised and continue to explore. So, a particular genre, if I was a good enough writer, I would probably write science fiction. One of my favorite writers was a brilliant woman named Octavia Butler, and quite prolific. And her take was that the science fiction world, the world of fantasy, was alive in us. That it doesn't, it's not an extension, and it doesn't really represent a leap out there into space. It's more a leap in here, a deep dive in our own consciousness, and an expression of what might be possible through our imagination. So that's what I would do. Fortunately, there are great science fiction writers out there, so I'm not needed. Um, but if yeah, in a perfect world, that's probably the writing I would cleave to the most, because I think it encompasses everything. It's so saturated in story, and yet it's always grounded in humanity and the way we deal with one another, whether it's an identified humanity or um, another kind of being that humanity has to deal with.
Wow, that's a really good answer, Carl. Wow, so that brings this interview to an end. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Amber, and may I, with congratulations on what we can't talk about that you're about to do,
Same to you.
and
Same to you.
and, and moving onward in your work and career.
Wonderful. Thank you. So to you at home, thank you so much for watching this interview with the wonderful Carl Lumbly. Stay safe, stay happy, and we'll see you around. Bye and cut.